Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Chamber with me, Councillor Jackie Healy-Rae. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at another busy month in Kerry County Council. I'll take you inside the June Council meeting, explain what happened at our annual AGM, where Kerry elected a new mayor and 5 new Cathaoirligh in each of our municipal districts. And I'll finish up with a topic that I believe is going to affect every road user in Kerry over the next number of months, with the upcoming speed limit review throughout the county. So we're going to crack straight into it. It's been an unbelievable week of weather. The temperatures are soaring and it is very hot. But look, we will not complain. It's great to get it. So June, we had our normal monthly meeting. It was a bit busy with a few different meetings in the month. We had 17 items on this month's agenda. We had over 25 or 6 motions, I believe, from different councillors in relation to different topics, as you know. Anything can kind of come up from month to month. So I'm going to crack straight into the CEO's report. There was a couple of interesting things in it this month. Kerry County Council have started their energy efficiency retrofit programme, commenced in June. The project is jointly funded between the council and the department and will deliver retrofit works to 45 homes in St. Joseph's Estate and Balloonach Estate in Tralee, an investment of 1.2 million. So that's, Kerry County Council looking after their own housing stock, getting them up to spec, getting them up to standard, energy-wise, retrofitting them. A lot of these houses have been in Kerry County Council stock with a long time. So this type of work is very welcome to them and for the tenants who are paying rent every week to Kerry County Council. Kerry County Council also, over the next number of weeks, are going to be kicking off their strategic planned maintenance programme. Contractors are being procured and suppliers. This will be, again, Kerry County Council being proactive, taking proactive steps to carry out maintenance within their own stock. 880,000 of an investment, and that will be delivered over the next number of months to different houses across the county. It will include roof replacement, ventilation upgrades, replacement of windows and doors, all that kind of good stuff. As well, over the last number of months, I suppose particularly this year, people will have been very much aware of the survivors of industrial and reformatory schools. Some who've been from Kerry who went on hunger strike up outside the Dáil. Unfortunately, they had to do this in order to get government's attention. It's a pity that they had to take such drastic action. But with that came commitments from government and from the Taoiseach himself. And Kerry County Council have now put in place a dedicated housing liaison officer, which will act as a point of contact for those people, to provide information, guidance, signposting and assistance, to access local authority services, which is very welcome. So that's very important for those people, who unfortunately have been through and are still continuing to go through the effects of, the hardship that they were put through at a young age. So it's very welcome that Kerry County Council have done that. Moving on then to the South Kerry Greenway. As many of you know, there is over 3 sections now of Greenway opened, shoving close to nearly 10 kilometres of the South Kerry Greenway. I am very much, I'll always acknowledge when good work is happening. Kerry County Council and the CEO, led by Fergal Reedy, and the team in the Capital Delivery Unit, and particularly in our DO office in Castleisland, led by people like Paul Curry and Bridget Fitzgerald. They took it. They went to South Kerry over the last number of weeks with the IFA, led by their chairperson Jason Fleming, who's doing brilliant work in trying to ensure that landowners are represented, that landowners are heard, and a public meeting took place in Foilmore over the last number of weeks, where landowners, were heard by the council, had one-on-ones with the council, and the CEO has, has committed to continuing that engagement with landowners. Landowners just want to be treated fairly. They want fair play. They want to, get their accommodation works done. They want to be paid for the land that is being CPO'd from them. You know, I often said that, you know, I can't go into the shop today, buy diesel and pay for it in a week's time. You know, and landowners, again, 10 kilometres of greenways opened, work is commenced and well underway in many other sections, but yet not even a quarter, just over a quarter of landowners have been paid, and that's not good enough. And to be fair, I think the CEO acknowledges that and has committed to the engagement that is required, you know, to get agreements with landowners and to get that across the line. And that to me is very important, and it's proactive, and I'll acknowledge that and the good work that is being done. In relation to other works, many of you will see work has commenced in different parts of the Ring of Kerry, in Carrow, down at the Glees Viaduct. That's all part of funding that was secured from TII, which my father Michael was very instrumental in when he was a minister, in securing that record package of funding, over 33 million for roads in Kerry. And it's great to see that work now translating to black tar on the roads, because that's what people want. People want to see you know, the contractors out and the council out tarring roads with the money that they're getting, and making proper use of it. And in relation to that, then progress is being made in relation to the 3.1 kilometre works from Sneem to Blackwater. That that tender has been received back and are being assessed, and hopefully it's anticipated that works will commence in July of 2026. A pavement contract has been awarded to carry out resurfacing works on the N86 in a number of different locations between Tralee and Camp. It will entail resurfacing works, which again is long overdue and long welcome, because look, I suppose over the last number of years, you know, it's been really tough to try and get funding for these roads, particularly under the stewardship of the last Minister for Transport, who, to be frank, didn't have much interest in building roads. But I'm glad now that roads is a priority again for government. It is being delivered upon. Kerry County Council are making use of the money that they've gotten, and I hope that people in Kerry over the next number of weeks and months will see that bearing fruit when they are driving roads, which they are entitled to have good surfaces on their road. Particularly when you talk about roads like the N86, like the road from Sneem to Blackwater, and the Ring of Kerry Road, the N70. They're national secondary roads. They're part of our national road network. They need to be like any road really, but particularly our national road network, for both commuters, for people living in the county, but also people who are visiting our county. You know, to have there is some local roads out there that are have better surfaces than our national roads, and that's not good enough, and that's not something that can continue to happen. So I'm glad that work has started, and that we're seeing that coming to bearing fruit. Many people who will have been in Abbey-Dorney at the Four Cross Junctions. Works have commenced, which will include the introduction of traffic lights and pedestrian crossings, and the works are expected to take around 6 weeks, and that work is very welcome as well. There's bridge rehabilitation works being carried out across the county as well, which is very welcome. And you know, it's good to see work commencing and ongoing. And you know, today I'm recording this on Friday, the 26th of June, and it's actually Your Council Day, it's called, where, you know, we acknowledge the local authorities for the work they do. A lot of people, you know, some people can be negative about the council, some people can be negative about the work they do, but for somebody like me who's a councillor and on the council, you know, Kerry County Council employs over, I think, 1,200 people in Kerry. The work they do to keep this county ticking over, some people might take a negative approach about it, and it's never good enough for some people. But to me, the work they do, and the staff, and you know, the people that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, particularly in the Castleisland electoral area, I mean, I cannot speak highly enough of the staff. It's hard not to talk highly enough of personally about people in Kerry County Council. They're dedicated to their work, they love what they do, and they're good at what they do. And they deliver the daily basic services that we expect in County Kerry. You know, the taxpayer in the county, you know, of course, will always want more and expect more, and that's only right. But Kerry County Council can only do so much with what they have and the resources that they have. And I think, you know, I'd like to think that in terms of local authorities, we are right up there at the top in terms of local authorities throughout the country. And, you know, given the day that's in it, I do just want to acknowledge, and, you know, it pays nothing to say thanks. And on the grand scale of things, Kerry County Council do very good work. Of course, there's things that don't always that I don't always agree with. There's things that happen that I don't like, and things like that. But that's life. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, the people in Kerry County Council are really good people. They're decent people. They're hard workers. And given the day that's in it, your council day, I want to acknowledge that and pay thanks to them. We're also very grateful to receive 200,000 in once-off funding from the OPW and Minister Kevin Boxer-Moran, who's been to visit Kerry a lot lately, and that's to remove river conveyance blockages. We asked for an update in relation to where those locations are going to be, where that money is going to be spent. So we hope to see that list over the next number of weeks. Just on the community side of things, the CLAR funding, that closed on the 15th of May. There was 69 applications received across the county, and Kerry County Council are now evaluating them. They'll go to the Department of Rural Affairs, and they will be adjudicated on over the next couple of months as well. So that's all very good and very welcome stuff across the county. We're going to lead on then to our bathing season. And when I say bathing season, I mean across the county, 43 lifeguards have completed their training and their induction to being lifeguards across our blue flag beaches, of which we have 16 blue flag beaches across Kerry. And we're very proud of our beaches. And in the next couple of minutes, I lead into one of the motions that I had over the at the June Council meeting in relation to our lifeguards. Again, I want to thank the staff who were out by Kerry County Council under the vacant property grants. Again, on the last episode of the podcast, I said that the over the shop grants of nearly 130,000, I believe, for over the shop grants, vacant property grants. That's available. Workshops were held. Over 250 people attended those workshops across the county. Kerry County Council have committed to doing more. So when I have those dates, I will be keeping you updated through my social media and all that. So in relation to our planning, it's brilliant that our Cathaoirligh, Corcagwina Municipal District Plan, the variation to the County Development Plan has been completed. We completed that on Monday, the 15th of June. We have zoned land now, a good few hundred acres of prime land zoned for housing. We want to see the Cathaoirligh and Corcagwina areas developing and getting bigger, and, you know, providing housing, much needed housing for our constituents. That's what it's all about. You know, this is why, you know, from the likes of me, that's why I get into local government and politics, you know, to make change. And it's through these plans where change comes, you know. Zoning different pieces of lands for different things. It's not all about housing either. It's making sure that we have land available for jobs and for infrastructure, all that sort of good stuff. And so I'm glad that's done. Listowel is currently underway, and I know the councillors there are working hard to get that done. And then we will have all our variations to the different county development plans done at that point. So that was kind of a lot of the stuff that was spoken about in the initial part of our meeting. Many of you who would have heard the radio over the last number of weeks would have heard that Kerry County Council published the housing allocations report to us, the elected members, for 2025. And within that, I suppose there was a bit of controversy over, you know, a number of councillors had looked for the nationality of people that were getting houses. And I suppose, you know, this platform gives me an opportunity to try and break down what I feel was actually going on at the meeting. And while I know some councillors may have taken it up differently, you know, to be fair to the two councillors that brought it up, they didn't bring it up in a racist manner. They didn't bring it up in a derogatory way. You know, I get it myself from time to time. I get the people that might ring up and say, so and so got a house, they're in the country a wet week and they have a house. I mean, that sort of stuff doesn't happen. I haven't seen it happening. You know, if people want to provide evidence to me and to Kerry County Council of stuff like that happening, you know, yeah, I listen to it. But like a lot of the time, 99% of the time, it's rumours, it's innuendo, it's not factual. And I think, you know, this was pertaining to a housing development in Killarney where there's over 300 houses. And I think one of the councillors made the point that, oh, people are challenging us, saying it's all foreigners getting houses. And that's the type of language that people use when they're talking about this sort of topic. And so the councillors looked for, within this housing allocation report, that the nationalities of people getting houses would be published. Like, to me, look, that's not really a big factor for me, really. Look, I mean, we have people who came here during the boom, particularly Eastern Europeans, for example. I know that we have a big Polish community, for example, in Kerry, and they came here, they worked, they set up lives. Unfortunately, the crash came, they might have fell on hard times. And I suppose, lads, this is the whole idea of being in the European Union. You know, we have free movement of travel. People can, you know, I can move to Spain in the morning if I wanted to, which many people might wish that I did. But likewise, people from Spain or Poland or Eastern Europe or France or wherever can come here and work and live. And a lot of people did that. And, you know, again, during the crash, fell on hard times, you know, couldn't afford rent, couldn't do any of that. And they went on the social housing list. They qualified for the social housing list, met the criteria for that. And now some of them are getting houses. And that's just, you know, it's the same for everyone. The one thing that I did look for to be on this housing allocation report, there was 604 houses allocated in 2025. 54% of them were approved housing bodies houses, and 46% were Kerry County Council houses. So the approved housing bodies are the different government-funded agencies that provide housing. They look after them. Kerry County Council don't own them. Obviously, then Kerry County Council houses are their own houses. Kerry County Council are responsible for them, and for the tenants, the upkeep, maintenance, blah, blah, blah. So what I did look for was that, because what's often thrown at me is, John down the road was on the list for 12 years, he's still waiting. Mary down the road is only on the list 2 years and she got a house. How did that happen? That often gets thrown at me, and it's sometimes, again, I say to people that couldn't happen. It's not true. Like, generally, while there is other circumstances that are taken into place when it comes to allocating housing, generally time is one of the biggest factors. So, like, people who are on the housing list a year or two, like, they're not getting houses in the normal way that people are. If sometimes, if there's, you know, extenuating circumstances and really hard cases, oftentimes, of course, those people are housed, but for legitimate reasons, and reasons that, if explained, but again, due to GDPR confidentiality, people have to understand we can't, you know, go through and speak about people's different circumstances. Everyone has different circumstances. John, who might be on the housing list for 12 years, doesn't want his case being spoken about, nor does Mary, who might be on it for 2 years. But generally, you know, it is people who are on the housing list for the longest get the houses if they're bidding on CBL for them and looking to be allocated a house. So what I did ask for was that a category in future be put on these housing reports that you know, we can see how long people were waiting before they were allocated a house. And I think that that information will tell us that the majority of people are waiting the normal waiting times, which could be anywhere 8+ years. And that's generally how I find, you know, the run of the mill of how it's done. So that was an interesting thing that came up for debate. I know people have different opinions in it, they have different views, and that's just the way that it is, and that's fine. So then, moving on to the motions that I had at the council meeting. One of the motions I brought before Kerry County Council this month focused on our 2 archway patch masters. And people might say to me, what in the name of God is an archway patch master? It's not even hard to say. So I call them Dura patchers because that's what the other machines used to be called. So there's 2 kind of ways traditionally that I know of that for filling that the council used to fill potholes. There is the everyday thing that people see of the council staff out in the pickup trucks putting coal tar into the potholes, patching them up, and doing that way. There is another way, a more sophisticated way, a better way, to be honest, which is the Dura patchers or the patch masters. I suppose I'll use that term. And back in 2019, Kerry County Council replaced what was then known as the Dura patchers with these patch masters. These patch masters cost €500,000. We bought 2 of them at €250,000 each. It's designed to repair potholes quickly, efficiently, and at a lower long-term cost. And also, it gives better durability, than the normal, shovel and tar, all that. So I asked a simple question that how often were these actually being used? And the figures provided by the council made, for me, interesting reading. Usage peaked in 2021 when the machines were used for a combined of 86 weeks across the county. Since then, though, usage really dropped significantly. In 2024, that fell to just below 40 weeks, a reduction of over 50%, even when you factor in the fact that in 2025 alone, the figures remained relatively low. And when you break down the numbers by municipal district, there's also significant differences. Some areas, for example, has seen greater access to the machines than others. While my own, Cathaoirligh, Cork-Greenham Municipal District has seen the usage fall to 21 weeks in 2021 to just 4 in 2024. So you can see the difference that has occurred. And the council, in their reply, acknowledges that it plans to introduce a new rota system for 2026 to improve efficiency and ensure that a more equitable distribution of the machines that in itself suggests that the current system really isn't working. The concern I have been hearing, is that the internal charge for municipal districts using these machines is simply too high, meaning that our engineers may be reluctant to book them. And if that's the case, we need to ask the fundamental question: what is the point of investing €500,000 in these machines to repair our roads if it's too expensive for our own council to use them? And that's the feedback that I've been getting as a councillor, because as a councillor, we have a budget dedicated to us for doing jobs within our municipal district. We don't get into our own pockets before people say that. It's just a fund given to each councillor, and that councillor has the power to use that funding where they like. So what we were finding was that the cost for using these machines out of our councillors' allocation was getting higher and higher. There is an internal charge as well, that if the engineer of an area deems that they wanted the patchmaster to come out, the money is taken from their municipal district budget. I hope that is easy to understand. So basically, if the council are using their own machinery, there is rates, there is charges to each of the municipal districts. We have 5 municipal districts in Kerry, and each of those municipal districts has a budget. So when these specialist machines are coming out, the charge for those machines is taken from those budgets, or likewise the budget of the councillor. Ultimately, you, the motorist, don't care about how the internal accounting works in Kerry County Council. You care about the potholes outside your home, on your commute to work, going on the school run. And if these machines can be repair the roads better, more efficiently than what is being done, then these machines need to be out on the road more often and not sitting idle inside the machinery yard. It's not good enough. And I'm glad that the Director of Service was on hand to answer a question. And the good news is, that the council has recognised that there's room for improvement. And I certainly will be keeping a close eye on to whether the new rota introduced for the latter half of 2026 is actually yielding results in more potholes being repaired by these patchmasters, because it is a much better job. The machine uses hot tar, it sprays it on, the chips get rolled out onto it. It's a much more efficient, better job. but we just need to get using these machines more often. And if the budgets in the municipal districts need to be increased, then that's what we need to do, because we can do all the fancy projects that we want, we can spend all the money on these different things, but if we can't maintain, repair potholes, the most basic thing that a local authority should be doing, if we're not using the specialised equipment that was purchased at a cost of €500,000 to the taxpayer in Kerry, those machines should not be lying idle inside in a yard. They should be out on the road every single day, and we should be buying more of them, because if they can be used better and more, and if they're more efficient, and if they make the road last better and longer, that's what we should be doing and encouraging. And unfortunately, the statistics that I received showed that there was a big fall off in the use of these machines. But again, I'm very thankful to the CEO and the Director of Service who have committed that these machines are going to be out on the road for more often and more regularly, and that's what we want to see, because that's very important across each of our municipal districts. So moving on to my next motion. My next motion was in relation to carrying out a review of the lifeguard schedule on our beaches for the 2027 bathing season, as we call it. Lifeguards in Kerry are recruited on an annual basis, on a seasonal basis each year across our blue flag beaches, because in Kerry, we have excellent blue flag beaches. We have some of the most in the country, and we have some of the best beaches in the country. So unfortunately, towards the end of May, we had an incident that occurred on Banna Beach, where unfortunately someone nearly drowned. As many of you will remember, we had an excellent last kind of week of May, start of June, where temperatures were near upwards of 30 degrees like they were this week, and with that, thousands of people flocked to our beaches. That's to be anticipated, and that's natural that happens. Unfortunately though, the traditional bathing season in Kerry doesn't really kick off until June, July, August, and a bit of September. So in June, it's on the weekends that we have our lifeguards, and in early September, it is the weekends as well, and on a full-time basis then in July and August. So obviously, when that incident happened in Banna at the end of May, where two very brave people risked their lives to save that person, and we appreciate their efforts. But unfortunately, sometimes you often hear, when people, spring to help people, it cannot lead to further accidents at times. But these two people, and it was reported in one of the local newspapers, were very strong swimmers, and they were very experienced, and we're very grateful to them. But unfortunately, there was no lifeguards on the beach at the time. And I appreciate the council's reply, but I suppose in that it was going to be impossible really to cover the beach and beaches at all times. And I don't think I was, and I don't think I know I wasn't looking for lifeguards for 52 weeks of the year across our beaches. That's certainly not what I was looking for. But the weather doesn't work to the council calendar or to the traditional bathing season. When people are swimming in the month of May, there should be lifeguard protection in May as well. The traditional bathing season, it might be July and August on paper, but in reality, we're seeing our weather patterns changing. And this year was no different. We've seen beaches packed in May, families, tourists, and young people, they were in the water, but the lifeguard season hadn't commenced. And my point was that we can't continue to base a 2026 service on weather patterns that are 20, 30, 40 years old. The weather and the climate have always changed, and us as a local authority with responsibility need the ability to react to that also. And the reply, it states that reviews are carried out annually, and my motion is simply asking that this review genuinely examines whether the current model remains fit for purpose. Because if our beaches are busy enough to create a risk, then they're busy enough to have a lifeguard cover. And I'd much rather be accused of, providing lifeguards too early than having to explain why they weren't there in the first place. And the cost of extending the cover by maybe a few weeks, or just having that bit of flexibility to ensure that we have lifeguards, you know, when they're needed. When we know, and I know it's hard to predict what the weather's going to be, but if you know you're going to have a very hot week and the people are going to be expected on our beaches, if Kerry County Council potentially had people on reserve and on call to potentially respond to that. And like, I did appreciate the fact the Director of Service said, look, a lot of our lifeguards are seasonal workers. They're students. They're even people who are coming in from abroad for the summertime, you know, spending their summer in Ireland, working on the beach, making a few pound and going home, because it can be hard to get people to work at this type of work when it is seasonal. But, you know, I think, you know, we've invested millions in promoting Kerry as a tourism destination, but we must ensure that we invest in keeping them safe as well. And it's not a criticism of our lifeguards, because I have to say, you know, they do a fantastic job. It's a question of whether the dates that they're operating are still appropriate for 2026. That's the question. And, you know, the council have committed to carrying out a review and carrying out an in-depth review of this and seeing if flexibility can be given going forward, because I think it's important. But look, I suppose the main message now is that that's going to be done. Lifeguards are on our beach. They do fantastic work. Respect our lifeguards. You know, they are there to help. If you're ever approached by a lifeguard in one of our blue flag beaches in Kerry, you know, listen to what they're saying. They're the experts. They're trained. And I look forward to seeing them on our beaches throughout the summertime, when many tens of thousands of tourists will be visiting our county and visiting our spectacular beaches as well. So that kind of summed up our council meeting for June, and we then kind of went on to our AGM. The annual general meeting of Kerry County Council was held last Monday in County Buildings in Tralee, and on that day we elected, I'll get to that, but we have a new mayor of Kerry, and we have 5 new Cathaoirlighs across the 5 municipal districts in Kerry. So the morning of the AGM, it was all the 5 municipal districts met at separate times in the council chambers in Tralee, and we each elected a new mayor Cathaoirligh of our areas. I suppose to give a bit of background as to how this actually works, is at the beginning of every council term. So after, for example, to make this straightforward, in 2024, there was in June of 24, there was 33 new councillors elected. Some not new, some were re-elected, some were elected for the first time, but there's 33 councillors elected every 5 years. The AGM takes place 2 weeks after the council election, and generally it's a bit like the forming a government. People are, you know, wrestling to get, as what I would say, control of the council, as in the power in the council, and have a majority. And what that kind of means then is that, you know, political parties or none come together, form a pact, and they divvy out the positions amongst themselves. So they form like an alliance, and in this case, for this council term, the councillors in Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Labour are in the pact. So in 2024, after the election, the 2 Labour councillors kind of have the, I suppose, balance of power within the council. During that time, us as a group of independents, I think there was 11 or 12 independents, plus Sinn Féin, nearly had the numbers to get the controlling pact in the council. But unfortunately, like I say, those 2 Labour councillors had the swing, and they went with the other 2 political parties, which of course is their right. But we did, as a group of independents, and like I say, with Sinn Féin, tried to get that control as well. So kind of from that AGM, it is pretty much laid out for there over the next 5 years, you know, who's going to be the mayor of Kerry each year for the 5 years. It rotates, obviously, who's going to be the vice mayor. And then within the municipal districts, as long as the numbers allow, which it does in 4, but in 1 it doesn't. So in every municipal district except Killarney, the controlling pact in the county have the municipal district chairs to divide up amongst themselves. In Killarney being the anomaly that it is, there's a lot of independents elected in Killarney, and they have come together and they are, rotating the mayor of Killarney amongst themselves. So, and look, people might say, oh, I don't agree with that type of system. Sure, there's no election or no anything like. I suppose the first day of the council there was an election for mayor, but every year since, the candidate that has been put up from the controlling pact has been elected unopposed, or if you want to put it that way, and that's just the way it works. It's always been that way. My own father benefited from being in a pact in 2002 and 2007. Was it 2007? I think he was mayor of Kerry on 2 occasions, and he was mayor of Kerry because again his vote was needed, and in turn he got to be the mayor of Kerry on 2 different occasions, supporting 2 different pacts to make up the numbers. People, again, like I say, mightn't agree with that system and how it works, but lads, that's just how it works, and I hope I've explained that to you in a pretty easy way to understand, I hope. So in the morning, us as a Castle Municipal District, Castle Corcaguina Municipal District met, and Councillor Brown Fitzgerald, a good friend and good colleague, was elected as our Municipal District Chair, unopposed. He was elected, and Councillor Fionnán Fitzgerald is our last Cathaoirligh. In Listowel then, we have Councillor Jimmy Maloney, who is the new Cathaoirligh there. In Killarney, we have Councillor John O'Donoghue. He's the new mayor of the Killarney Municipal District. In Tralee, Councillor Angie Bailey is the new mayor of Tralee. And in the Kinmare Municipal District, Councillor Teddy O'Sullivan Casey is the new Municipal District Chair there. So they're your 5 Municipal District Cathaoirligh, or mayors, as I like to call them, throughout Kerry, representing those areas for the next 12 months. Getting on to the big top job then, on Monday, Councillor Mikey Sheehy was elected unopposed to be the next mayor of Kerry. Mikey will serve in that role for the next 12 months, and Councillor Jimmy Maloney will be his deputy mayor. I've no doubt both will be great ambassadors for County Kerry, and I think as councillors it's very important that we support the work that our Cathaoirligh and mayors do, because I suppose they are the first citizens of their areas and first citizen of the county in the case of the mayor of Kerry. And it's very important that us as councillors get behind them, support them, and support the work they're doing, because the work they're doing is representing us as councillors across the county, across the country, and internationally as well. And sometimes I feel that as a council, we don't sell ourselves enough, particularly internationally. And I know that one of our guests that we had on here in the podcast earlier, Councillor Niall Batty O'Callaghan, is always harping on about, that we have to get out there and sell ourselves. And sometimes as politicians, we can sometimes be shy about that because the general public think that we're off having a fine time for ourselves, when in reality, I'll give an example. And, one of the councillors that I mentioned there, Councillor Brown Fitzgerald, who's now the Municipal District Mayor in the Castle Corcaguina area, he's done great work in reviving Kerry and the Big E. The Big E is a big kind of exhibition over in Massachusetts, and there's strong connections there with Corcaguina and Dingle, and Councillor Fitzgerald has really been to the fore in reviving that connection. And a delegation from Kerry County Council go to the Big E now every year in September in Massachusetts, and it's well worth it, lads. You have to spend money to make money, and you have to be sending representatives from our local authority, including councillors, to sell our county. I love selling our county. I love telling people about our county. And as a councillor, if we can do that both, outside our county and internationally, that's what we want to do. We're not going off on holidays. We're not going off floutering around the place. They're heavy days, packed agendas, making it worthwhile. Yes, it costs a few pounds to send a delegation to America. Of course it does. But it's well worth doing, because, again, you have to spend money to make money. So, that's what our municipal district chairs and our county mayors, will be doing over the next 12 months. And I wish all our new mayors across the county every good luck, and they'll have my full support over the next 12 months going forward, because the work they do is very important in representing our county and being good ambassadors for our county. And I have every faith and confidence in those that have been put in those positions in doing that work. So lastly, I want to talk about the upcoming speed limit reviews in County Kerry. Yesterday, Thursday, I was on Radio Kerry discussing the new proposed speed limits across the county in Kerry. In my view, to be honest, it's a bit of a controversial one. Not controversial, but I question, the measures that are being targeted and being put in place. We need to focus on kind of doing it better, to be honest. I don't believe that this is the answer to making our roads safer. So what is happening, to try and briefly and easily explain it to you, over the next coming months, the urban areas in Kerry, the speed limits are being reviewed there with a view to introducing 30-kilometre speed limits. So this is happening across 60 areas, across every area, town and kind of built-up area in Kerry. Obviously, our big towns like Cathaoirligh, Killarney, Tralee, Listowel, Carsveen, Kimare, all those urban centres. So the main streets of these areas are being defaulted to 30 kilometers an hour. So what's going to happen is, obviously new speed limits are going to be put in place, but there's also going to be different speed limits on some of the approach roads, and the speed limits are going to be dropping, quite often in some places. The Killarney bypass, for example, from my reading of the map, there's going to be 5 different speed limits on that stretch of road. That to me doesn't make sense. It's confusing. It's not fair on road users, to be quite honest. And again, I question the effectiveness of it, because if all we're going to be doing is changing the speeds, the heads of the speed signs to say something else in multiple different zones, people are going to find that hard to adapt to initially. It's going to be confusing going forward. It's going to be hard to follow. It's going to be hard to keep up with. And all I find that's going to happen is what I've seen happening over the last number of years is speed reductions, speed changes being used as a glorified revenue-making exercise for the state. Because what we have seen happening is oftentimes where the speed limit changes a number of times in a short space of road, that you have a go-safe speed van located inside these areas, and lo and behold, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, because again, people are attempting to slow down. They mightn't have reached the reduction of speed yet, and they get caught by a couple of kilometers being over the limit. And again, I find that the most effective way of slowing people down, particularly in areas that need to be protected, it is practical measures like speed ramps, like tabletops and all that sort of thing. Because another part of this is our schools. And I fully support that our schools need to be a safe place. The roads around them need to be safe. And there's some places in this county where, cars are passing too fast by our schools. But I'm going to give an example here now of where we did improve that situation. Guinevere, for example. Guinevere National School, the principal approached me one time in the last number of years, asking, could something be done about the speed limit at the school, or introducing measures. There was a pedestrian crossing at the school, but unfortunately there was no ramp or anything like that. We carried out a speed review, the council did, on foot of my request, and it found that cars were going in excess of the speed at that location. So what we did was we applied for CLAR funding. We received over €50,000 to put in a new kind of pedestrian crossing, but also a speed ramp. And that has dramatically improved the situation at the school. It protects the school, protects the crossing, and it works. No need for a speed reduction. If you hit a speed ramp going too fast, you will break your car. And it is as simple as that. So when people say to me, oh, that ramp is a nuisance, it's a nuisance because you're going over too fast. And I've no sympathy for people who break their cars on the speed ramps, because, to be honest with you, the only reason you do is because you're going too fast. And the reason the speed ramps are there are for a reason. So the new proposal is that at locations throughout the county, within certain zones, when the school is in session and in term, in the morning and in the evening, when the kids are coming out of school, you will have a further reduced speed limit. So I'm going to use Fossa as an example. When you're coming in from the Cloglan side, it's 100 kilometers. The speed drops to 50, I'll start again. When you're coming in from the Cloglan side to Fossa, it's 100 kilometers. When you hit the gap cross, it's 60. When you're coming up to the school zone, it is now 50. So you're 100, 60, 50. Under this new proposal, within that 50 zone that already exists, when the school at certain times, probably 9 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the evening, you're going to have 30 kilometers. But only when those designated times and when the school is in session. So within less than a kilometer, you're going to have 4 different speed zones. We already had a situation before where a district court judge said that the speed van that often was located in Fossa before the big job was done, where the speed limit dropped and it was just kind of unfairly inside the speed change. It was like shooting fish in a barrel is what one judge described it as, because people were getting caught so often. Again, a revenue making exercise. I just think that it's going to be very confusing for people, and I don't think it's going to be effective in actually doing, I know in Fossa there was problems there with speed at the school, and they looked for a ramp, and as people who pass there now every day will see, there is a ramp there. It's working, it's effective. I pass it very often myself, and you slow down, go over the ramp, off you go. So again, this is going to cost the taxpayer money. It's going to cost you, the taxpayer in Kerry, and the taxpayer wherever you're listening to. It's funny when I say that. It's funny to see where some people are listening to this podcast, not even from Ireland, across different countries. Maybe it's Irish people, the Irish diaspora abroad that are tuning in. But anyway, rant over on that. I question its effectiveness. I question the money that's being spent on this. Is it value for money, and is it going to be effective? I don't believe it is. I question it. There is a public consultation now. I encourage people to go on to the Kerry County Council website, look at the maps, look at what's happening in your area, look at what's happening on the roads that you use when you're commuting, going to work, going on the school runs. Many schools will welcome this and the speed reduction and all that good stuff, and that's fine. And again, I want our roads to be safe. I want our schools to be safe. I just don't think that what's being done here is effective. I don't think it is going to yield the results that the amount of money throughout the country that's going to be spent on it. I think it could be spent better. It could be spent better on traffic calming measures like speed ramps, like all that kind of good stuff. And they are things that I believe work. So I encourage everybody that's listening to this, particularly from Kerry, obviously, go on to the Kerry County Council website, look at what's happening. There's maps up there. It's in good detail. It's very easy to understand. See what's happening. Ask yourself, do you agree with it? If not, please have your say. There's a public consultation open. Kerry County Council will receive everybody's feedback, and it'll be up to the councillors then, I think, to make a decision. I'm not sure how much discretion, I asked this question, how much discretion do we have as councillors over this? And I didn't really get a proper answer, but look, that's for another day. So please have your say, because I want people to be informed. I want people to know what's happening, and in turn, I want people to have their say. And obviously, let me know as well, what you think of these proposals. You might very well agree with them. You might disagree with them. You might question their effectiveness, like I am. And road safety is very important. Far too many people are dying on our roads, and I don't want to see that happening. But I want us taking practical, actual, effective measures that I feel will work. I don't have a monopoly on being right, but I just don't think that this changing the heads of speed signs, introducing more speed drops in different locations, I don't believe that that's the answer. I don't believe it's going to be effective and yield the results that the amount of money that's going to be spent on it will justify. So I hope that was a good breakdown of our June meeting, of our AGM, and again, what's happening in relation to the speed limit reviews throughout the county, which will inevitably affect everybody. As always, everyone, get in touch with me if there's different things you want me to talk about, to explain. I'm happy to do it. I've received some of your emails. I have to go through them because some of you have some very interesting questions that you want me to address. Some of you have some quirky questions that you want me to explain about the council as well. So I will be doing that on another episode over the next number of weeks. I have some very good guests lined up over the next couple of weeks as well, so I'll be bringing you that. As always, you can contact me by phone, by text, by email. And so there's multiple ways of getting in touch with me. I'm never too far away. So please enjoy the good weather, be safe out there on our roads and on our beaches in this good weather. We're all hoping I won't have this podcast out before heading to Dublin tomorrow to cheer on Kerry in Croke Park, but hopefully by the time this goes out, Kerry will have beaten Tyrone. We'll be in an All-Ireland semi-final, and we'll be looking forward to that. I'm flying up to Dublin tomorrow. I'm using our flying local from Farn 4, a fantastic service, quick service, and I'm looking forward to meeting all the great staff at Kerry Airport tomorrow. But like I say, by the time you're listening to this, hopefully Kerry will have won the All-Ireland, hopefully in a couple of weeks' time. But I mean, we'll have beaten Tyrone and we'll be through to an All-Ireland semi-final. So thanks for listening. I appreciate everybody that's been tuning into this. I'm very humbled by the feedback that I've been getting and the amount of people that have actually been tuning in. So thanks for that. And that's it for this episode. And I will be back soon with another episode and with some guest interviews. So I look forward to that and look forward to bringing you that content. So all the best, and thanks again for listening.